Yeah, they can't.
Yeah, I switched them, but that's why.
They do that.
Yeah, it's just. Okay, we are recording.
I'd like to call to order the Texas Association of Colorado County. This is the August 12th meeting. Stu, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're recording the meeting, so it'll be available later, but it's not a immediate thing, all right? But we do have, how many people on Zoom? While we have our speaker. What? Oh, okay, thank you. So anyway, president's announcements and comments. The Board of Supervisors is meeting tomorrow. And then on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, the Ag Commission is going to meet. Since I didn't note it in the agenda, I just wanted to comment that there's a couple of items that I think people might want to look at on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. That's on Legistar on the county website. It's the Ranch Marketing and Winery Ordinance follow-up. It's been about a year now, and so they're coming in with some statistics related to how that ordinance is functioning with the oversight that's going on with the county. And then the other part is there's a grazing lands general plan policy review or a presentation related to Marble Valley, which is the Village of Marble Valley specific plan, and the Lime Rock Valley specific plan. Both of those are major projects that are south of Bass Lake Road interchange. For those of you that don't know where those projects are, there's a nice valley down in there with a beautiful quarry lake from the original quarry, historic quarry. So anyway, those are a couple of comments I wanted to let you know, especially about the Ag Commission. We've got a couple of speakers here today. They at a short notice, they have made themselves available. I have Bill O'Neill, Registrar of Voters, and Linda Webster, Assistant Registrar of Voters. Bill has over 20 years of a direct experience in elections with 30 plus years of technology experience. Bill has a long history with El Dorado County elections starting in 2004. When as a consultant, he helped the department successfully select, implement, and use the previous premier voting system. Bill is a longtime resident of El Dorado County, living in a nearby town of El Dorado. This is the town of El Dorado, you guys. He's my neighbor. I live in Diamond Springs, so he doesn't know that, but that's okay. And then prior to that, he was a member of the El Dorado sheep herder, so he knows Rubicon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Linda started with the county in 1989 with the Record Center. In 1990, she transferred to the Recorder's Office, and in 2005, Linda transferred to the Election Department to manage the new voting system. Eventually moved in as the registrar, the Assistant Registrar of Voters position. Linda enjoys everything outdoors: hiking, horseback riding, motorcycle riding, and gardening. So round of applause for our speakers today. Take it away, speakers. Whoever's gonna start.
I'll let them go first.
Okay.
So as y'all know, I'm the Assistant Registrar of Voters. I started with the county a long time ago, I helped the recorder's office transition from hand stamping to electronic recording and indexing off of images, so there was a big change in that department while I was in there. I also was part of the first electronic recording with the unsecured property taxes with the treasurer tax collector. And then from there, I moved on into the elections department and really enjoyed it there. Got to know each of the functions of the elections department and still really enjoyed making that process work for our voters in El Dorado County. There's a lot that goes into conducting elections and I encourage you all, if you have not had the opportunity to come watch the process, we have everything from candidate filing, which for the November election just ended this Friday. We do have some districts that are being extended. And just a little oversight of what happens after the candidate filing ends. We start preparing our election and our system and our ballots. So we have to do what's called a consolidation of the precincts, which gets everybody into the right ballot type so that you get your proper districts that you are allowed to vote on, or depending on where you're registered at in the county. And then we go on to, after that process, we go on to preparing our ballots for the election and getting those all laid out. And there's some really important steps in preparing our ballots. And that is, once we have them all prepared, we do what's called a logic and accuracy testing. And that's probably one of the most important steps of the election process. And if any of you ever have time to come in and watch that, I encourage you all to. What it does is it tests every voting position on the ballot and tabulates it to ensure that the output, what is comes out on the reports, is accurate. So we do that before we even before the ballots are even getting mailed out to you. We are testing the system to ensure that it is working accurately, reporting accurately. And so that's a lot of what goes into getting the ballots ready for all of you to receive them. We also have the voter information pamphlet that we are getting ready to prepare and have printed. And that includes all of your candidate statements of any candidates that you'll be voting on in the election. Those get prepared in our office and get ready for print, and ballot measures. We have quite a few ballot measures. There's state propositions, which you will be receiving a voter information guide from the state on the state proposition. So that will come separate from your balloting materials for El Dorado County. And so that's, a lot of what we have going on, and I've had the opportunity to be a part of just about every step in the election process. We're a small department, and I've been in there a while and have had the opportunity to be a part of each step of it. So it's a little bit about me.
Can you talk about, before you start, can you talk about the move, when you moved from building C to, yeah.
So we moved, we were at Building C for many, many years at the Government Center, and we moved last September down to Ponderosa Road. We were able to design the department. Bill did a really good job at making a very secure area for the ballots. So they come in one door, and the whole process is down a line, and it's behind a wall that those voted ballots never come out of. And they have viewing windows with explanations by each viewing window what's going on that process. So the public can come in and watch that whole process and get a full understanding of what's going on inside of there. And another thing with that is during the election time, all of our cameras are being cast onto the internet. So you can watch it live stream.
Thank you.
So I'm Bill O'Neill, Registrar of Voters. I think I pretty much know everybody. I've been in elections for 20 years, just over 20 years. Was a technology guy.
I worked so there's a little confusion out there. I've never been a salesperson. I'm a terrible salesperson. I've never sold voting systems or worked for voting system companies. I've always worked for counties. The last company I worked for, we provided equipment like ballot sorting equipment and those types of things to counties. But I was the chief information officer and then the CISO, which is chief information security officer, doing a lot of cybersecurity stuff, starting in about 2016 when cybersecurity started to really pick up in the election space. I was fortunate enough to come to my home county as the registrar. That was, to me, it was a huge honor that I was selected to be here, and I've just enjoyed it tremendously. I am retiring at the end of this year. I think most people know that. The board has selected a replacement and they're going to be announcing that pretty soon. I'm very excited about who they selected. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I think one of the things when we moved to this new building, we tried to balance two things which are sometimes in conflict, which is transparency and security. So trying to open it up for the public to be able to see everything while being very secure is kind of difficult to do, but I think we struck an excellent balance. Like Linda said, when you come into our building, we call it self-service transparency. You can come in, you don't have to have an appointment, you don't have to worry about, we're going to be asking you questions or we're going to be guiding the thing. You come in yourself. We've got stanchions set up so you can walk along the entire process. You can see every bit of the process. We actually, when we're tabulating ballots, we actually allow people into the ballot tabulation room. There's stanchions set up. You have to stay behind those stanchions. You can't reach out and touch equipment or anything like that, but you can be in the room watching the process. I think we're the only county that actually does that in the state. As Linda mentioned, we have cameras. Every step of the process, there's at least 2 cameras in every room, and we live stream those. So you can go to our website and you can watch the live stream. We usually put them up about 30 days before the election because that's when things are happening in there. So you can watch every step of the process online. And I know a lot of candidates have been doing that, and they've been watching the process during the election cycle, which I think is an excellent thing to do. As Linda mentioned, logic and accuracy testing. There's 2, what I think are the most critical parts of an election process. One is logic and accuracy testing, because we're testing the system to make sure it tabulates the ballots exactly how they were voted. We know what the result should be. We run sometimes 15,000 ballots through the system. We test every single piece of the system, and then we run the ballots. And that has to come out exactly as we expected, right to the single vote. The second part of the election that's very critical is the audit. So we're required by the state to do a 1% manual audit. Generally, we end up doing sometimes 2 to 3%. A lot of the smaller districts will do a full recount. And what we do during that process is we take a batch of ballots, they're all in batches of 197 to 100, and we count those manually, and then we compare those against electronic results, what the system saw and what the system recorded. To AT every election, it comes out 100% accurate. Generally, the issues that we find are the manual. There's 5 people at a table. One side is reviewing and counting the contest. The other side is reviewing and counting a contest. And then we have a person at the end of the table that has the electronic results. They don't tell anybody what the results are supposed to be. So as they're manually tabulating them, at the end, they say, this is how many votes we had for this contest or this person. And that person either says yes or no. If it's no, they have to count again. Every time we have a discrepancy, it's because when they were doing the manual tally, they didn't do it correctly. They missed a ballot. It's really a tedious process. People that come in and watch it usually don't last very long because it's a very slow, tedious process, but it's a critical process. Because that ensures that the tabulation system counted those exact ballots exactly the way they were voted. So that's, again, those are 2 of the most critical parts. Watching tabulation, it's fun to watch the equipment run, but you actually you don't see results. You don't get to see, what's coming out of the system until after 8 p.m. on election night. We never know, what the results are until about 8-10 on election night. We run everything, prior to the election, we'll run everything that we have in-house. So all the vote by mail ballots or any ballots that were voted at the vote centers up until 8 p.m. election night. We just keep processing and processing. What happens oftentimes, people may not realize, is we'll get on election day, we may get 30,000 ballots or more dropped off at the vote centers, in envelopes. So those have to be processed just like every other envelope that comes in. We have to run them through our sorting machine. It ensures we haven't received a ballot from a voter yet. It captures the signature. We do signature verification on it. We put it into batches of 100, and then we can open them, review them, and tabulate them. So it's a lengthy process. Generally, by the Friday after the election, we've counted about 98-99% of the ballots that we'll have in that election. But it takes, contests have been swung based on those mail ballots that we get dropped off on election day. Generally, the turnout is pretty high in this county. We're usually in the top 5 in turnout. It's a very, very active voter county, which I just love. We go through a lot of work, as Linda talked about, to prepare an election. It's like, I always equate it to, you're putting on a party and you invite everybody you know, and you want everybody to show up. We're putting on a party, and we're putting on a party for 132,612 people, and we want them all to show up. The cost is the same, whether they show up or don't show up. As a taxpayers association, I'm sure you can appreciate, the more people show up, the more value you're getting for your money. But also the more people are participating in the election process, which is critical. There's a lot of people will say, well, the presidential contest, I really don't care, or my vote doesn't count. It's not just the presidential contest. It's not just a congressional contest. It's every jurisdiction that's having a contest, the school boards, the fire boards, the small zone of benefits. All those contests are on the ballot. The measures, the tax measures, they're all in that ballot. So even if there's a contest you're not interested in or doesn't strike your fancy, there's a lot of stuff on there that really needs everyone's attention. So I always encourage people to just vote it. If you don't, or if you're not concerned about a contest, you can skip it if you want and go on to the ones that are most important to you. You don't have to fill in every single contest every single time. We'd rather you, even if you just want to vote on one thing that's important to you, to do that. One other thing I want to cover, it may or may not be a big topic down here, but it is in South Lake Tahoe. There's a measure on the ballot that's gotten a lot of attention, and they're really, the city of South Lake Tahoe is really passionate about this. It's measure N. It's they're calling it a vacancy tax. What that's creating for our department, we don't care how people vote on it. We really couldn't care less. We don't take sides. But it's causing a lot of controversy about second homeowners wanting to register there, and just change their registration to vote on that, and then they'll change their registration back. As a department, we have to be conscious of that. We have to be aware that people have to still follow the laws. I know they're passionate about it. I know it's important to them, and I completely understand that. But we still have to be very careful about following the laws on registration and where somebody can and can't register. There's a lot of guidance, and there's a lot of case law, things that have gone to judges to determine where somebody's domicile is versus residence. And it's a very confusing law. It's a very confusing code on where you can and cannot register and why. So that's something that we've been paying attention to, because we have to protect the integrity of the election. We have to ensure that after the election, there wasn't illicit votes or registrations. because somebody's gonna come out ahead and somebody's not, and they're gonna wanna make sure that the election was run well. Despite what side you're on, it's something that we just have to pay attention to. We get a lot of people that are very upset and angry about that. I understand that. I understand the passion. But it's something that we're working on, just to make sure that we're upholding the integrity of the election. We don't pick sides. We just want to make sure it's good. There are at any time opportunities for you guys to come in, anybody to come in. We never close or lock our doors. We never cover windows. We never cover cameras. It's always 100% open to the public. If we're there, you can be there. But we'd like you to be there. We have good food. So, you know, there's always something to eat. We also encourage people to bring us good food. But we really like people to come in and visit us. We've spent a lot of energy having this new building designed specifically, as I said, the two main focuses, not one more than the other, transparency and security. So we really like to show off what we have. We have on August 28th, we're doing a town hall. We've been doing these the last couple of years. The town hall this time is specifically focused on security. So we're going to go over all of our physical security measures and all of our technical security measures. And IT is going to be there to talk about the county network and how the county is ensuring the security of all of our systems. And a plug for our IT department, they have done an incredible job securing the county. They've worked really hard over the last 5 years to bring in a lot of incredible cybersecurity practices. So
Is Tanya still there?
yeah, Tanya's.
Tell them a little bit about Tanya, why she's so good at what she does. You're familiar with her, right?
Yeah. Tanya and I have a great relationship. She supports our department tremendously. I can call her any time of the day or night. She's on the phone and has somebody down to help us. So Tanya came from the state. She was there for, gosh, I think close to 30 years.
Yeah.
She was there a long time. She is one of the smartest, hardworking technology people I've ever met. She's very passionate about security, and she's really done an incredible job designing and redesigning the department around functionality.
Yep.
So they provide a tremendous desktop support to us in our department. We've had a lot of meetings with them, and they come in and they help us with all of our setups. They're going to be helping us set up all our vote centers, testing the equipment, setting up specific security measures just for our department. And she brought in a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, and is using a lot of state, federal, and private sector security processes and procedures. So she's brought in a really excellent team. One of the things with cybersecurity, it's ever changing. I got to the point when I was a CISO, it was really hard to keep up with because it's constantly changing. And I still am very involved in the cybersecurity world. I was in Florida in June. I was invited, and the trip was paid for by the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, DOJ, and they put on a 4-day conference all about cybersecurity and cybersecurity around elections and what the threat landscape is and what they're looking at, you know, and keeping an eye on. And I think people would be surprised to hear the threats that are coming down. There's some hacking stuff. That's not the primary threat. The primary threat is disinformation and building distrust between parties. It's Iran, Russia, and China, and they are working really hard getting information out there that makes one side hate the other side. That is their primary focus. And they do that by getting into, like you might have recently heard, President Trump's campaign was hacked, and they're releasing that information. They did the same thing with Hillary Clinton's emails in 2016, and they released that information. They're trying to make parties hate each other. They're trying to sow division in our country. There are still hacking attempts. There are still threats about that. They're not trying to hack voting systems because they know they can't. Our voting system is 100% off the internet. There's no external network cables that go into our voting system area. It could not connect to the internet no matter what. All the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is shut off. There's no network cables that go outside. It's all contained within itself. And they know that. So that's not what they're going after. They might try to get into voter registration systems. That was always a concern we had. They flip all Dems to ours and ours to Dems. And then we send ballots out to all the wrong people.
What does that mean? Dems and ours?
We're Dems and Republicans.
Okay.
If they swapped everybody's party,
Okay,
boy, the country is gonna be mad, rightfully so. People will be furious, right? Well, that's a great way to sow division. It doesn't change the election. They're working really hard to get everybody to believe that our system, it does not work. Their voting system does not work. If you don't believe our voting system works, you're not gonna vote, you're not gonna trust it, and it sows more division. They were behind some of the messaging that has gone out about voting systems not being secure. Russia, Iran, China, they all have their own reason for doing this. Russia wants to sow division. Iran wants us to hate one party. China wants money. And that's kind of the way they are manipulating our system.
let's take some questions.
Yeah,
Well, I heard you mention, 32,612. That's like 17% of the population. Anyway, maybe that was just a number, but it's
132,000.
132, okay. And then what are the requirements to vote? Is there a resident, could you kind of expand on that? And could you mention security of the ballots after the election? I know you
Yes.
talked about it, but I mean, physical, I'm assuming we're still doing physical paper ballots and you have to physically secure them for some period of time.
Yes, excellent questions. So I'll take the physical security and then Linda can tackle the residency. So physically, what we do with all the ballots, as Linda said, it all stays on one side of the building. After the election and after we do the audit, all the ballots are sealed in their batches of 100 in a plastic, clear plastic bag. Then those are all put in boxes and they're all serialized, so we know exactly what batch is in what box. Those boxes are sealed. They're palletized, they're wrapped with plastic, and then they go out to our warehouse. And they're stored in our warehouse underneath our racking. And they're held for, state is 6 months, federal is 22 months. The warehouse, particular side it's on has 4 cameras. And the other side, the center side has 2 cameras. So they're being watched all the time, 24/7. And then Linda, if you want to tackle that.
And real quick, at the end of those 22 months, they get shredded. Everything gets shredded.
We don't open or look at, we can't pull a single ballot out of there without a court order.
So on registration, for many, many years, as we were all younger, registration came by way of paper. Everybody filled out a voter registration card, they signed it. Everybody needs to be 18 years old, be a citizen, and reside in the county to be registered. And you have to be 18 to vote. You can register at 16, but you do not get a ballot until you turn 18. Now with National Voter Registration Act, that requires the motor vehicles in every state to offer a registration anytime that you have any interaction with them. So that's when you go to get your license, renew your license, renew your registration, and things like that. So or change your address with them. It requires them to present to you the opportunity to register. And so, a lot of people have gotten registered through that system, not meaning to, or unknowingly to them. But so that's how they come into our system electronically, and we have someone that works them. And to register on that, you need to have your date of birth, at a minimum, your date of birth, your residency address, last 4 digits of your social, and your ID number, in order for it to all come to us electronically.
And one of the things that I've been working on just real quick, with Congressman Kiley is NVRA, and Congress passed the SAFE Act for voter ID, national voter ID. So I've been talking with him quite a bit about how we can do that. Even in retirement, I plan to spend time on that. Determining some way to have a citizenship check between the time that they register at DMV and the time it gets to us, or they register online and the time it gets to us. With the technology we have today, it should be thoroughly possible to do a citizenship check.
I have a question on what is the difficulty in me changing my registration from where I am in this county to South Lake? So I can vote in that measure in election. Can I do that easily?
You can do that online, and you can do that online at registertovote.ca.gov. It's very simple, yes. But you're signing under penalty of perjury that now is your domicile, even when you do it
Well, what
electronically.
if it's a part-time domicile? 2 weeks out of the year, I don't,
Well, that's not the definition of domicile. And
that's where I was getting. What is the definition for the registrar's office?
they give, we're not a policing agent, so they're signing under penalty of perjury that they meet that domicile of, and the domicile described in elections is things like where your driver's license is listed
Okay.
at, where your kids go to school, where you take your tax exemption, where you see your doctors.
Okay.
Those are some general ideas on domicile.
Thank you.
Talk about, sometime after the election, your office, you particularly, I believe, certify the election. How long does it take for you to get your arms around everything? And then tell us a little bit about the certification process.
That's a great question. So certification takes time. We generally do it in 28 days. One of the reasons it takes a while is, as I mentioned, we might get 30,000 plus ballots dropped off, and we have to process those, and that can take a week and a half. We have a lot of CVRs, which are conditional voter registrations, same day voter registrations. So each one of those, and if we get 1,500 of them, they take 10 to 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes per CVR to process, because we have to go through the voter registration card, enter them into the system, ensure they're eligible to
And
vote.
CVR is?
Conditional voter registration.
Okay,
And
Which
we
is-
also check to make sure that they have not voted anywhere else in the state or.
Okay. yes.
And before we can even open their ballot, we have to do that. So at 20 minutes a piece, it takes quite a while to do that. Then we also have some legislation. We have to wait for ballots to come in that were mailed on or before election day. And if, as long as they were postmarked that, then we have to open those and count them, but we have to wait that period of time.
Okay.
So it's a lot of cleanup paperwork. It's the last 1% of ballots takes more time than the first 99% of the ballots. And then when we reach the end of it, we go through all the reports, we check everything, we go through every tray, we go through every office, we go through everything and make sure nothing has been forgotten, lost, or left behind. And then it's a very formal process of I sign the certification document that says, yes, we've done everything, everything's counted. The election is completely certified, and then it goes to the board. And that's when the results become official.
And that official action by the board, that item that goes to the board, then goes where? Where's that delivered to? Statewide or what?
Yeah.
Oh,
We provide it to Secretary of State.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, okay. Okay, so let's keep going. We're gonna
Couple
go down.
questions.
Okay.
So you quoted 132,000 voters. Is that based on a primary or the general election? I ask because the statistics for the primary seem very low, and certainly not 132,000. So that's question one. Question two is, I personally know 3 people that were MPP that were in districts for the primary that did not receive ballots to vote. And they were not given any kind of an answer when they came to their office. I was just curious what might have happened and why they wouldn't have received their ballots.
So with DMV, they take a lot of action that we are out of our control, perhaps maybe, and I don't know their situation, I hope that they got to vote. But maybe they had a residence somewhere else and had cars registered there, that we've seen that happen. Where DMV will update their registration to that county. Unfortunately, we try to catch those and get those mitigated right away. The 132,000, so our registration fluctuates daily. People are moving in, moving out. So it fluctuates daily. That was just a number in time real recently. Even though we had a low primary turnout, we were still one of in the top 10 of the state. And the others, counties in the state were a lot lower. We have always had very active voters in El Dorado County. But I hope that your neighbors or your friends got to vote when they came in.
They did when they came in, but I was just curious, but so if I heard you correctly, you don't control who gets ballots, the DMV does.
Well, the
Okay.
DMV kind of with National Voter Registration Act has become the main, almost the main voter registration department. Cause they are, and it's a federal law, not a state or a local one. That everything that goes through DMV is presented with that option to get registered to vote or change their address or change their party. And we have complained a lot about it because to opt out of that, if you know you're already registered to vote, was kind of at the end, seems to us to be a little bit hidden. So we have really tried to work with the Secretary of State to get DMV to highlight that better.
And the 132,612 is the number of registered voters.
Right.
Of that, I think, I can't remember, I think we had around 60% turnout. So that fluctuates, and there's also lots of reasons that people don't get ballots. DMV is one of them. The mail service, not throwing USPS under the bus, but sometimes the ballots don't get there. We actually just got a ballot back that was returned to us from the March election. 4 months later, they're still finding ballots, I don't know where, behind machines, underneath machines, and they're sending them back.
Let's go to the back table, over there with Brian, go.
Like, how much vetting goes on to people that vote? Reason I'm asking this,
How much what?
vetting of people's identity goes
Okay.
into. Reason I'm asking this is 4 years ago, I was sitting in the Diamond Springs parking lot, waiting for a friend, and this Hispanic couple pulls in. And after a few minutes of them arguing, she gets out and walks over and says, Mister, is this El Dorado? And I said, no, ma'am, it's down the road to your left about 3 miles. And she says, no, is this El Dorado County? And I said, well, why? She said, we came here to register to vote, and she didn't even know what this was even El Dorado County. That's what worried me then and still does, is how much people can come in and register someplace else. How do we stop that?
So one of the best systems that we have to stop that right now is the statewide database. If they're registered in another county and then they register here, the system will look for matches. And it will kick those out and say, you need to look at this, and then we can do that. If they come from out of state, right now, there is no national voter registration system. So if they drive in from Nevada, we don't know, and we get somewhere between 200 and 600 a day. Change of addresses, new registrations, cancellations. So it's a lot, and we have 7.5 people in our office, so it's a lot of work. So we can't vet every registration that comes in,
We're
unfortunately.
gonna have to wrap this up. Sue?
Well, that's kind of one of the questions, was the security, issue of registration and flip-flopping on registering for 2 weeks and then registering somewhere else. And how do you, if you're not a policing system for that happening, how does that get cleaned up? Because
So I can
If
tell
some-
you, just real quick, some things that we do is we run reports before, periodically before our, ballots go out, and we look for addresses that may seem, have a high registration, We try to catch all business addresses, all parking lots, all that type of stuff, and put them as no registration addresses.
So can people illegally flip flop during the year? And I was gonna ask you, because you had actually talked about the system for the auditors for property tax, when we put in an exemption for the, I worked on that too, which is back a long time ago. That's where the residency, you're claiming that exemption as your residence.
And you're right about that, but sometimes that's there's a lot of people that rent their property out, so that wouldn't be as accurate.
They can use a rental space as their voting,
Yeah, somebody can be rented,
if they're renting it out to somebody else.
if they're renting, no, if they're renting it out to somebody else and that renter lives in that property, that renter has the right to register there because that's their domicile.
So you're saying they wouldn't have an exemption report?
Yeah, you're right about that, sorry about that, yes.
Okay, let's move on, Sue. I got a lot of people here. We're just about to. No, listen, no, come on.
Yes, the EI.
One more question.
ISAC, the county contracts with that security company, for elections. Can you explain that? Is the.
EISAC.
Yeah,
EISAC is a federal agency, part of the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security. The county doesn't currently contract with them as far as I know, but they might have, it's not something I'm familiar with. I'm part of EISAC.
I'll ask you later.
Yeah, we can talk after.
And
but
remember, he's gonna have a town hall, what date?
August 28th,
August 28th for security type questions, right?
and we'll take anything.
So just real quick, so you have all these ballots that come in ahead of the election and they are there. Can you talk about when do you touch the ones that have come in to start tabulating them? And then can you talk about your process of when you communicate an election result and when and how often do you determine when you're going to communicate that to the public, how the election results are going?
So we don't start tabulating ballots till we have about 15,000 in-house that have been returned. And then we go through the process of scanning them, checking signatures, opening them and tabulating them. No results are released. We don't even run a results report until after 8 p.m. on election night. And that's when it releases the bulk of it. And then after the election, generally, after we get through that first, whatever was dropped off on election day, which is usually the Friday after the election, we release the first supplemental report. And then we do it about once a week after that, because we want to make sure we have enough ballots in there to make it.
I mean,
Work.
during election day. On
Oh.
election day, how do you determine when you come out and say, here's an update?
It's all based on when we get the vote center ballots in, because we have to tabulate anything that was voted on election day. So generally after we get 3 to 4 vote centers, so we might release at 8:15 and then we'll release at 9:15 and then 10:15. We don't have set times. If we get 5 vote centers in the first 5 minutes, we'll tabulate those and release those results right away.
Carol, did you have anything?
No.
Steve or Hank?
No, in the
Hank.
interest of time, I'm gonna give up my time.
Okay, Hank.
I was at your office, just after you opened it, your new facility, and it's very nice. It's pretty sparse at the time. I think there were like 5 people there or whatever, but I'm sure it's a lot more full these days. My question, I think you answered it early in terms of security. We got a letter recently from Ticketmaster saying they were hacked. And we had just purchased some tickets for a concert, so it sounds like you're pretty secure and isolated from the internet. Are all the other counties in the state similarly situated, or?
Yeah, every county in the state has to keep, it's called air gap. Their voting system is not allowed to touch the internet in any way, shape or form, and that's checked and tested regularly. So yes.
And that is the ballot tabulation system. That's not your voter registration system.
Steve Ferry?
So you must need some volunteers for doing all this work out there in the field somewhere.
So we did just recently have a recruitment up on the HR website. We've got 30 people so far. If we need more, we'll open it back up. Yes. And one other thing I want to say before we go, because I know you guys are pressed for time, is
Yeah.
for the town hall meeting, if you're a registered voter in El Dorado County and we have your email address, you will be forwarded a survey about elections and and you will be able to submit your comments.
Yeah, the survey's open right now.
The town hall?
Yes.
Is there a time for this town hall? Is it run?
6 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellent job, you guys. So we'll have a short break, just a couple minutes now, because I don't think we'll need more than a couple minutes. You got anything that you wanted to say to us,
I love all the questions. Come in and keep asking. Really, I'll talk about elections forever.
All right, hey, thank you.
Thank you,
Linda. Thank
guys.
you, Bill.
Thank you for having us.
All right, appreciate it.
Enjoy the
Don't
rest of
forget
your
your stuff, make sure you got everything. Yep,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Terminate the recording.
No, we're gonna Zoom. We're keep recording. We're gonna go into our, you're gonna defer the 10-minute break unless somebody wants to go to the restroom. Okay, we're gonna move on then. Members meeting, we're gonna have Zoom available. And, we're gonna have I'll need approval of the agenda or any additions that you want to add to the agenda. Since this is a membership meeting, Lee Tenenbaum.
I don't know if this needs to be agendized, but it appears that our Facebook page may have been deleted. And if it has, I do not personally have contact with the owner of the page. So if someone knows Todd White, you can reach out to him and ask if he deleted it. It would be good to know, because then we can recreate it, but if you would add that to the agenda for today.
Now, in your background, is that data still somewhere? When they delete something, is it just put to rest or what? Really, you lose it completely?
What was deleted? I'm sorry, I missed the first part of it. What was deleted?
It appears that our taxpayers
You got
association
sued.
with Facebook page has been deleted.
The history.
You found it.
I just found it.
Then I have no access to it and I'm an administrator of the page. Kevin has no access to it. He's an administrator. of the
Okay,
page.
well, we're gonna deal with this. It doesn't need to be agendized. This needs to be rectified and resolved.
Yes,
And I assume any of the administrators who have been put on the account have every right to make sure that that account is available to them. So figure it out, you guys. You're the smartest guys that I know, and that's the reason why technology is more your business than it is my business. But it doesn't take any action for you to reinstate that, so that you have access to it.
And we'll follow up with Andy. If what
Okay.
probably happened is he blocked us on the page.
Okay, all right, we'll get it fixed, and if we need,
Wait a minute, who blocked us?
the owner of the page is Todd.
Okay.
well, don't we?
So we need-
Okay, look at, this is not our place to resolve it because we can't resolve it.
Well,
Unless you
we're-
want to go to your computer
We're
and,
at a business meeting, so, I make a motion that Todd White comes off of absolutely everything that has to do with this
That's-
association.
okay, first of all, before you get your second, because I'm sure you're gonna get one. It's a natural evolution that people come and go, they get off of, leave the organization, and they have no rights in the organization. They shouldn't be tied to anything. That's why Gina and I talked about, the Secretary of State's, website, and I'm into changing that, report that we got, and resolving it. Gina knows that. I worked on that yesterday. But back to taking any action. You have a right to take action, you're the membership, but at the same time, I have an expectation, being part of this organization, that these things that you identify with, they get resolved. And if we don't have the mechanism to do it, then certainly a motion and a second to get somebody off.
Well, we need to make a concerted effort to go through the files and make sure that his name's.
And as you know, we've spoken about this before. We have to clean up what we have. And I'm part of that right now, working with the Secretary of State's office. So let's just get it done. Let's get everything resolved. Our technology whizzes. Ken Calhoun, are you a technology whiz? Okay. All right. Let's continue going here. Well, this is approval of the agenda. Do we want to add anything additional? I don't think so personally. Oh, there was approval of the secretary's report. Gina, you had commented on that?
Yeah, you all received the Carol, this is from your. You sent us the meeting minutes, so
I set out the meeting minutes.
any changes?
The only, we adopted the bylaws and that was pretty much it.
Okay, so that's your report?
That's my report.
Okay, that was, that'll be later, just a second. But no additional changes, right?
Is this a
Okay.
business meeting or a members meeting?
Okay, this is what's called a members meeting, but it is a business meeting of the membership. That means it's got board of directors in here and it's got members in here. It's not it is a mixed group.
I heard someone mention it's a business meeting. I just wanted to clarify.
Well, good point. Because business is done at the membership meeting and business is done at the board of directors meeting. Business is done.
So there
Now-
are two types of business meetings, very simple. Business is the overall umbrella name, business.
Did you hear what you just said?
So it'll either be a director only meeting or it'll be the entire membership.
So if you know, on the agenda, I had public meeting to denote the public portion, and I have members meeting to denote the membership part of it. So this is a membership meeting, and it is a business meeting. Therefore, the template I'm using is a standard template.
Well, let's
Lyle?
get to business.
Well, I just want to make sure
So
Lyle's okay.
So noted.
All right. So, president's comments, I've already done it. Oh, approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All those for approving the agenda? Aye. All those against? Anybody abstaining? Approves. President's comments, I've already made them. Secretary's report, Carol, one more time.
Well, let me clarify this.
Okay.
Since we're now have 3 meetings floating around.
Okay,
As secretary.
yeah,
And I'm interim, that's all I am.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to take minutes for the business meeting as well as the directors meeting?
okay. Now listen to me.
Is it, well, let me clarify that. because
Okay.
In the past.
Yeah.
The elected
Yeah.
secretary
Yeah.
only took minutes on motions.
Okay.
And nothing else.
Okay. It is interesting because people are constantly taking notes. And the notes that they have are usually more direct to the discussion. Because they are writing down things, noting things. It's more than just motion, making a motion and voting. So therefore, it really comes down to the topic. I think the secretary should have a responsibility. And you're not it because you haven't been voted in, you're helping us. And I think everybody needs to be clear on that Carol is assisting us. Carol now has a report on the board of directors meeting, not on the membership meeting. In both membership and board of directors, which is now together because we're all members, there's business done. So quit saying it's a business meeting when it's either a members meeting or a board of directors meeting. Is that clear?
Okay.
I have one comment. If I'm taking minutes, do I send it out to all the members
Okay,
of the meeting?
if it's a members meeting, then send it out to all the members.
Okay.
Now, that's
Chris, if I may.
I'm just president. I can't make decisions that are not mine to make, Carol, you know that. So do you need to have a motion? Because technically, if it requires then
Well,
some
we can do
action.
one of two things.
Yeah,
I can either email it out to every member, or I can make,
send it to me and I'll send it
and I
out.
can make a copy and
No.
have it available at the next meeting, they
No,
can pick up the
no,
minutes. from the
just
board meeting.
for the time being, just send me the minutes and you did send them to
Okay,
me. I'll get
send
those
it to
minutes
you.
out to everybody. Unless it's a board of directors meeting minutes, of which those can only go to the board of directors. Is that clear, Kelly? Okay, Steve Ferry,
Just to make a note about this, for the Board of Supervisors, for CSD and probably other agencies, all we put in our minutes is the motion second. Vote, that's it. To try to put in the discussions and so forth is beyond anybody doing that kind of work. Much less get it accurate.
so when we zoom, no, there's our record. So therefore, if we got problem with Facebook, do we still have a problem with the Zoom data?
We don't have a problem with Facebook, other than the person that is supposed to be posting it to the taxpayers page has been blocked, as
Yeah.
have I.
But the bigger and broader is what I said earlier. When somebody has a right to do something and destroys information, I am bothered by that. You're not?
I don't worry about it.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm beyond bothered.
Okay, so we're gonna get this resolved, Carol. Back to the secretary's report.
yes,
Can you, one more time, can you report what you just reported a minute ago?
okay, on August fifth,
Yes,
at the members meeting, the body voted to pass the bylaws, to accept the bylaws as stands, and they accepted it. I think it was
9-1.
okay, Carol, thank you for that report. Okay. Treasury report, nothing more to add. We're about $8,800. I still got the check, which I haven't sent to the Divide. It's still in my wallet, still sitting in there safely, but it hasn't been canceled yet.
Can you restate the amount on the treasurer's report?
Hold on, Carol. Okay, so the Carol,
Yes.
8969.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get you at the next meeting, we'll get a update on it.
Oh, I think we're gonna add to the bylaws a section that talks about the secretary and what kind of minutes she sends out the group. But other than that.
Okay, again, whether it's the bylaws or the policy and procedures,
PNP.
okay, because you said bylaws, but you didn't mean bylaws.
Policies and procedures.
Yeah,
So work
okay.
Continues on those.
Okay,
Carol's been kind enough to take that from me, because I'm
Okay.
got really busy with other things. It's still progressive.
okay, is that your PMP committee report?
It is.
Okay, and did you have anything more to say on bylaws? We're waiting for the logo.
We're waiting, yes. Stu is, working on the logo. Stu, do you want to give an update on the logo real quick?
I told you what it was.
Well, I thought you just might want to.
No, go ahead.
Gina, I'll report. First of all, thank you. I also got a copy of your, Gina sent it to me. The person that's that is our drafter, our artist is on vacation. As soon as they get back, Stu's gonna connect with them. He's gonna get us our revised, logo, which the 2 points I made at our last meeting was put of in there and drop the apostrophe, which Stu understands. So let's move on. Communications committee, anything? Okay, Ken Calhoun.
And I will need a copy of that so I can put it in the newsletter.
Yes.
The new logo.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a couple of comments very quickly. I appreciate any comments or suggestions as it relates to the newsletter from the board and membership. Please be aware that our policy on the newsletter content is on taxation, revenue, budgetary issues, that sort of thing. I mean, there's lots of important issues, but as it relates to the taxpayers, that's pretty much what the content is. Most of you realize that I pull the majority of articles and opinion columns from National Taxpayers Foundation, from different sources, Wall Street Journal perhaps, Cal Matters is another nonprofit, nonpartisan. And the other comment I'd like to make is stated policies of candidates or elected officers, stated policies is not partisan. That's just their stated policy. So if I happen to print something in there that says the administration is for rent control, which they are, national rent control, well, that isn't necessarily partisan. It's a stated policy. If I print in there that Trump supports no taxation on tips, that's not necessarily partisan, it's a stated policy. So I understand we all have opinions, but I try to keep the ones in the newsletter to stated policy areas. Anyway, so again, appreciate the feedback and.
Let me add a point to your thing.
Please.
There's a process that we go through. Ken gets the basic draft ready to go somewhere around the end of Wednesday. And then I have until somewhere around 10-ish 11 to be able to review it. Now we have additional people involved. We got Mary that's going to be involved once you guys get your stuff together. And we got Hank. And they are both very educated, knowledgeable, as to grammar and also as to reading the content. I asked Ken to put our mission statement, which you'll find now at the back, at the end of here it is. The last page is the mission statement, right out of the bylaws. Why did I ask him to do that? Because everybody needs to know. The public needs to know. Therefore, they can understand then the context of what Ken has just described. The only thing I ask Ken is, I would rather have a side-by-side comparison. Because if you have one newsletter that has a blurb and it's, let's say, tied to the Republican Party or to the process going on right now, and then you do another one later, people sometimes don't see everything, so they don't get the complete story. That's what I would want the communications committee to try to do. And if it's not a side by side because of the column nature of how it prints out and how it's published, then give me a blurb and a blurb, or break it up. Here's one party's perspective and then the other party. That to me is side by side comparison. Ken, I know that's difficult sometimes, but do the best you can. And under the circumstances, I believe in our newsletter and I believe we should have it. So let's continue it on.
He does a great job. Yes.
Yeah, let's get some credit to Ken and all the work that's going on. Last thought. You have anything? No? Ferry, Steve. Okay.
Mr. Perry.
Mr. Ferry.
One of the things going on here in El Dorado County right now as we sit is Marble Valley, Lime Rock, about 4,000 homes. There's a UC Davis project, Angelo Zagapos has down by where I live, which is 4,000 homes. 900 homes already approved going in where the Amazon plant was gonna be. 800 homes going in right now on top of, right above Blackstone. We have a lot of homes going in, and one of the things I think we should do is have Andy or somebody that's on the planning commission just give us some updates that we can put in our stuffs, because all of a sudden we're gonna have, and probably not in my lifetime, okay? I mean, this stuff takes forever,
Okay,
but
Okay.
to have stuff put into our communication and our letter there. And we tell people there's another project that we keep an eye on.
and the only way that we can do that is to follow the mission statement. If there is a need, like you're describing, then make sure that there's something in the mission statement that ties to that topic. Please.
Fair enough.
Okay, let's move on. Fire committee report, I don't see Dwyer here today. Anything on Jim? Anything that you wanted to comment on fire committee? I'm thinking that was an ad hoc committee, and there may not need to be, that committee may not need to be in existence anymore. Let me know if that's true. And you, the members, anybody? Is it a standing committee or is it a?
I
Is it
thought
a
I thought it was a standing committee.
Okay, if it's a standing committee, then
And
we'll,
I think it's still a big need for, because of the insurance purpose.
okay,
If for no other reason. the
okay,
insurance
then we're
has-
gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it.
A quick comment on fire, if you're interested, pay attention to Senate Bill 610.
Read it.
Okay, that's all.
Gina, quickly, since you mentioned it, what is that all about?
It seeks, here, I'll just read it.
Okay.
I didn't investigate it.
Okay,
It says Senate Bill 610 seeks to repeal current rules that classify state and local lands into moderate, high, and very high fire hazard severity zone. A process that rates areas based on their probability of burning, which in turn influences development patterns and building safety standards. I'm sure there's a whole lot more. I'm just
Okay.
mentioning it, Senate Bill 610. If you're interested in fire, maybe learn more
Okay.
about it.
all right, thanks, Gina. Transportation committee, there's a lot going on right now. Board of Supervisors, which is tomorrow. There's an agenda item. Department of Transportation recommending the board consider the following pertaining to the major update of traffic impact mitigation fees, traffic impact fees, and the capital improvement program. This is that item that they've had a couple of times. I believe this is the final action. It'll be item 30 at 1 o'clock. That's my reports. Unfinished business. Anybody? Okay. Unfinished business, no items. New business, no items.
No, new business. Is that where I can say new business?
Yeah, but
It's a suggestion that we all start thinking about what type of committees we want, what do we want to work on, going back to the mission statement of our organization. We have these ones that are currently on our agenda. Are those the right ones? Should there be more? Should there be less? What should they be? So if you can start thinking about that, because I would expect, we could do it. Yeah, so I'm just saying, start thinking about that.
Okay. Carol,
I want to quickly refer back to what Steve just said. As a taxpayers association on Marble Valley, we should analyze the impact on Highway 50, what it's going to cost the taxpayer for a new interchange, what it's costing EID for the ratepayers to pay for the infrastructure for those facilities, as well as the ones that are going across the county lines. What does it cost the taxpayers in El Dorado County for those subdivisions? And we should analyze that.
Offhand, Joe Harn should have to report out on all of that.
Then we'll give it.
Has there been an EIR?
okay, you guys quit just talking because people have their hands up.
We're having fun.
Bruce,
Yeah, just to piggyback onto those last two comments,
uh,
obviously Folsom is building like crazy. And there used to be water issues.
They got our water.
Okay.
So with this issue in Marble Valley,
Okay,
what is our status
Okay.
as far as that?
this is what's important out of all of this dialogue. You guys, last Thursday at the planning commission meeting was a discussion that answered these questions. Exactly what you are asking was discussed at the planning commission. Now, how did that happen? It's because one, you guys don't check Legistar, you don't check the meetings that are coming up. Because if you did, you would have saw the agendas published and there's gonna be items on the agenda. This item was discussed because it was a presentation. There's a dog and pony show happening right now. And these two projects, the proponents are going around and pitching why their projects are important to the county and why they deserve to have a general plan amendment and a rezone. There's gonna be next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. The same, I just said this earlier, the same discussion is going to occur on this dog and pony show. And it's on the agricultural commission agenda.
Well, they're gonna do their dog and pony show, we should do our own.
I'm saying that you gotta start with something. People can't be intelligent on topics unless they are involved.
And maybe that should be one of the committees that I just said in my previous comments. Maybe we think we should have a committee called Marble Valley
And
Lime Rock
investigate it.
from a taxpayers association, so.
You guys, you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And by the way, Paul Gilchrist has his hand raised.
Yeah, I was gonna mention.
okay, then raise it. Paul's.
All right, Paul, I think you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I agree. There needs to be some sort of committee that looks at, from a taxpayer's point of view, what's occurring with Marble Valley and Lime Rock. Two specific examples. I've gone on a tour with the developers and I've heard a lot of things from here in Cameron Park. And the situation is Lime Rock is not associated with any CSD. They're trying to get associated with El Dorado Hills CSD, but when you look at logistics and distances, the impact is greater to the Cameron Park area. Same goes for Marble Valley. And so I do believe the Taxpayers Association should create a subcommittee or a committee that looks at, are the taxes that are going to be generated from that for property, for fire, for CSDs, for whatever it is, be formed to get into that and look at it to see, is it appropriately apportioned? And is it going to the most impacted areas within those impacted areas created by those developments? That's my comment.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very pertinent. Just to bring closure, at least for today. What I understand is what Paul is saying. If you look at Cambridge, Cambridge is the east leg of the circulation system south of Highway 50. What I mean is it's a in out available, but it is substandard and only built for the community that is there currently. If there's anything that ties it to Highway 50 for these projects, it'll have to be improved to a level sufficient for transportation and circulation purposes. That's part of the conditioning of any project. We're at the early stages of these projects. So though far, catch one of the dog and pony to be able to get a feel for what's going on. The other part is these two are side by side, south of 50. And Village of Lime Rock comes off directly El Dorado Hills Boulevard. Excuse me, Bass Lake Road, interchange, south of 50. That's the main access. There are no other accesses. Those are the two. That means there's no south access to Latrobe currently proposed. I've commented already on this lack of completeness in terms of transportation circulation. You guys, I am the member of the committee, the Transportation Committee. And I am keeping up with these projects. I have a notion right now, Carol, that we want a community projects committee. I say community projects because that's very general and it covers a lot of topics, including reviewing these projects. So let's bring it next Monday as an item for discussion and for possible approval. Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Craig,
Yes,
did you say you had a motion on the floor for that?
not this meeting, but next Monday. Board of Supervisors agenda, I talked about the ones that I thought were important. We've got all these fires, and so the sheriff's coming under addendum to talk about the Office of Emergency Services because of the imminent and proximity threat of the Crozier fire. There'll be certain actions needed by the Board of Supervisors. It's a proclamation of a local emergency. That will be item 33 on addendum. It's a consent calendar item. And then there's also for the Crozier Fire, Health and Human Services, ratifying the proclamation of a local health emergency declared by the Public Health Office, item 32, also on consent by addendum. And then I talked about the traffic impact fees discussion, item 30, 1 o'clock. And then there's just a couple more here. 9 o'clock, we're going to talk about affordable housing, which next Monday, we're going to get Frank Porter here to talk about housing El Dorado. And he's going to talk about affordable housing. That's our speaker for next Monday. And then the water agency presentation, also at 9 o'clock, both of these 28 and 29 is our friend Rebecca, who was here talking to us about the water agencies. She's going to make a report, item 29, 9 o'clock, Board of Supervisors. And then only one more item. It's the the grand jury report, case number 2409, election integrity, separating fact from fiction. Gina had told me before we started that that report is out, and it's item 27, Department Matters, tomorrow for the Board of Supervisors. Carol.
I'd like to add one thing to our community project committee, but also include water. Because right now, EID has that are running districts. The water that EID is selling across county line is committed, and we're going to hit another drought in a year or two. And then they're suing us to pay for those projects in their water. And we should be involved in EID and getting them in here and talking to them about the effects on the taxpayers in El Dorado County.
Okay, also, like I said before, the Planning Commission had the EID engineer speaking to water, and he spoke about there's plenty of water.
That's what they always say, until a drought.
Right.
I got questions on number 23 and number 24.
Okay, what are they?
First one's 23 is on the advanced helicopter services to add language to the contract, authorizing reimbursement for travel, lodging, per diem, mileage expenses, performing helicopter repair services with no charge the amount or return.
Yeah, it's the length.
That's open.
Okay. Item 23, right? That was item 23.
There's no control on or set amount on that.
And then the other one was item,
Destroying weapons to generate money.
she's talking about salvageable firearms. There's a company called LSC Destruction that does the contract to take service revolvers or other weapons and they take them apart and then keep the best parts of the.
If they're salvageable, why are they even getting rid of them?
It says
I presume they're service weapons.
it
Right?
says to break down, destroy, and remove. So they have 3 parts to the contract. Anything more? We stand adjourned. Thank you. A little, 8:55.